chess fans, I hope you are doing well. Sophia is a social humanoid robot and a female AI. She can play chess, and it was a very exciting match that occurred between me and Sophia. She is a popular AI worldwide and represents the future of modern technology. This game is very exciting and contains strategic brilliance. So, let's get started. I started the game with d4, Sophia responded with knight f6, followed by e6, a popular defense for black. She then played knight c6, and after I moved knight f3, she followed up with bishop before check, transitioning the game into the Bogo-Indian defense. After knight d2, it doesn't matter whether you block it with the bishop or knight. In this position, many chess players consider castling, but it is a common move. After a3, the bishop must decide whether to exchange the knight or retreat. Many players retreat their bishop, because it's the only active piece from black's side, and e4 will occur to dominate the center. After black strikes with d5, because the d5 pawn is well protected, I can push my pawn, moving back the knight, and then play bishop d3, significantly attacking the pawn on h7. Black immediately strikes with c5. In this variation, if you go with the strategic move h4, it hinders a strategic master plan to attack the kingside. Playing knight c6 is a very bad choice, since the bishop, along with the knight and queen, jointly attacks the black kingside. Therefore, you can sacrifice your bishop on the h7 square, which is called the Greek gift sacrifice, because the knight comes into h5 to initiate a masterful checkmate, even if the king can't run to g6 because of knight f3, which will just destroy the position. The rook file will open up after the exchange. After queen h5 check, followed by queen to h7 check, the king has literally no square to go except capturing the pawn on g5. After that, g3 will lead to a checkmating position for black. The game can be over in just 10 moves. Going back to the variation, we discover that Sophia didn't castle. Instead, she played the countermove d5. By the way, Sophia is a very popular and influential AI on the internet and worldwide, which is why she plays so formidably and makes her moves very significant. I followed up with queen a5 check, declaring that she is nothing in front of me because I am the god of chess. You might be better in social forms and data collection, but you can never beat me in chess. The bishop is under attack, and capturing the knight would lose the dark square bishop, so you have to keep your bishop in the game to create some pressure through the dark squares. The bishop will later attack the pawn on d4, which is why she moved her bishop back, a good move. We followed up with e3 and castling. Bishop d3 came on the board, preparing for the same attacking plan I already mentioned. The problem is that the queen is not located on the d1 square, where she could create potential attacks on the black kingside. The chess game never ends. So, let me share an inspirational quote in sudden with you. Tomorrow is not promised and the past cannot be changed, therefore live each day to the fullest and know that every new day is a blessing. We have queen d6 in order to push forward the pawn on e5, which is why I immediately played b4, declaring my intention to advance my pawns on the b or c files. After capture and recapture, the queen seems puzzled. Some might consider queen d8, which looks reasonable, but after queen c2 comes on the board, it will dynamically pressurize the pawn on h7, the other bishop can join the b2 file. After h6, you can play b5, kicking out the knight and asking why it's there. Like a criminal, it needs to go to jail. Subsequently, you can play the unexpected move g4. Whenever you get the chance to play g4, just play it to launch a heavy kingside attack with h4, simultaneously threatening to push your pawn on e4, e5. If black dares to capture the pawn on g4, the rook on b1 will create dynamic pressure. You can then push forward your pawn on e4 and e5 to kick out the knight, which often troubles players because the pawn on h6 is also hanging, pinned by the g-pawn. Some might be tempted to consider king h8, which looks logical, but remember, Stockfish is just greater than you. I am a big fish, and you are just a small fish in the lake or the drain. I can capture the pawn on h6 with my bishop, sacrificing it to consider queen d2, taking a significant attacking chance on h6, leading to a checkmate. After the knight blocks on h7, the queen will arrive there. Rook g8 comes on the board, But don't fear, we have king e2 to connect the two rooks. The football coaches connect, and the rook kicks a goal on the football post. After rook g1, queen f8 might create trouble for you, making it a vulnerable situation for black. Can you guess what white should consider in this position? Try to think a little bit. It's not e5 to open up the diagonal for the bishop because your queen is hanging there. The best and most spectacular move, which you never imagined, is knight to e5. At first glance, it attacks the king on g6, it is threatening, and the king cannot run. Even if you capture my queen, I can checkmate you by playing knight f7, the game will be just over for you, ha ha. That is my strategy. Going back to the position, we discovered that playing queen d8 is a very bad choice, which is why Sophia played queen d5, putting pressure in the center. Playing e4 might seem logical at first glance, but it creates a strategic weakness. The queen will return to d8, and your two center pawns will become vulnerable because black can play the tactical move b5. After the queen captures, knight takes d4, attacking the bishop and queen simultaneously, forcing the knight back to b2. Black can then consider a5 to open up the file for the rook. White plays the tricky move queen c6 to attack the rook, but black's bishop p7 defends by attacking the queen and protecting the rook. As the queen moves back, black captures the pawn, pinning down the a pawn to the rook and threatening to capture the a3 pawn, which is supported by the bishop. Putting white in a vulnerable situation, the game will then favor black. Returning to the position, we discovered that playing e4 is a very bad choice, which is why after knight b2, black should consider e5 to prevent e4 on the next move. However, Sophia moved her queen back to d8. A few moves later, we have rook a1 to push forward the queenside pawns. After castling, the bishop moves back. So far, so good. The queen gets an open file, and after a5 to create significant attacking chances on the b4 pawn, we push the pawn forward and the e-pawn to dominate the center. The strategy in the center is that I have two center pawns while Sophia has only one, which is advantageous for me. Sophia responded with b6, but I think b6 is unnecessary because it creates light square weaknesses. In this position, she should consider c6 to launch an attack. There's no need to fear b6 because the knight can easily move to b5, protected by the bishop. Instead of c6, she played b6, creating weaknesses. After rook d1 and c6, we capture, and rook to c8 increases pressure against the pawn. You might argue that the knight should capture the pawn on c6, which is a good move but not the best. After I play d5, I can disrupt your position. When the queen reaches d5, knight c4 can attack, with the idea of bishop h7 check, picking up the queen. Some may consider queen e6 to safeguard the queen, but it's a blunder because after rook to e1, the queen will be trapped. Knight takes b6 will win the rook on a8 by a fork. Analyzing the position, knight takes c6 is a vulnerable move, which is why after rook c8, the pawn on c6 is under attack, leading me to play d5. Defending a pawn chain in the center is vulnerable because it's attacked by two pieces. Sacrificing a piece to play knight c4 and bishop h7 check, followed by bishop e4, is advantageous because the knight is pinned to the queen and rook. As the rook moves, bishop e2 can be played, causing significant damage to black's position. Playing bishop to c6 is a bad choice as it blocks the dark square rook, allowing white to merge the bishop on d4 to attack the rook. Another strong move is knight e5, attacking the bishop. As the bishop moves back, bishop d4 kicks out the rook. After bishop takes b6, the queen has no squares except one, leading to winning the knight and creating a favorable position for white. Returning to the position, we observe that bishop to c6 is a risky move. After b5, attacking the knight on c4, I have an open file for the rook. With queen d2, Sophia offers a queen exchange. I smile, make eye contact, and play queen f4, putting her in a precarious situation. She offers another queen exchange, but I decline with bishop e5. Playing queen to c8 is a bad choice because I can respond with knight d6, an incredible move. Bishop takes knight is not viable because bishop takes d6 creates problems for the rooks. After queen a6, knight f5 creates a precarious situation on the kingside. The knight on a7 is passive, attacking the bishop on e7. Some may consider knight c8 to protect it. After capture and recapture, rook to d6 attacks the queen and knight. As the queen moves back, rook takes f6 creates a winnable position for me. I can't resist my attacks, threatening to invade by playing rook takes h6, pinning the pawn to the king. After queen takes f6 check, queen to g7 leads to a checkmate. This is an incredible position for me. Analyzing the position, we discovered that the queen is under attack and cannot retreat to c8. Sophia brilliantly played rook takes e5, sacrificing the rook and reducing some of my attacking chances. Some might consider playing bishop d6, but normal moves are just garbage in this context. Let me show you why. Knight takes f7 comes with the idea of capturing the queen on c7. If the bishop blocks on d6 to create an attack, I can sacrifice my rook on d6 too. Knight takes f7 will win the queen on the next move. So, let me share a beautiful quote with you. Don't make excuses for why you can't get it done, focus on all the reasons why you must make it happen. In this position, we have king to g8, trying to safeguard the king. After some attacks, we have knight d4 aiming to move to f5 and create pressure with the bishop. Here's a chess tip: when you play, attack along the 6th and 5th ranks on black's side. That's the secret strategy of many grandmasters. After bishop takes a3, the rook moves to c2, and the queen goes to d6, followed by rook d3 to access g3, with b4 and rook moving to g3. The king is under threat and can't go to h8 because knight takes f7 will win the queen. As a subscriber, you know that Stockfish subscribers always win or learn. Sophia played knight h5 to double attack the rook and queen. I responded with queen f5 to checkmate her. Playing g6 is bad because I can take the knight, pinning the rook to the king. When knight to f6 happens, I move my bishop back to d3 to avoid the knight's attack, keeping it as a crucial attacking piece. Sophia played knight b5 to eliminate my knight, and reduce my activity. I responded with knight g4 to target black's key defensive piece. When g6 is played, and the check on f6 occurs, the king can't move to g7 due to a tactical move. Can you guess it? Pause the video and think. The move is knight to e6 check, sacrificing the knight. When captured, it unguards the pawn on g6, allowing queen takes g6 to checkmate on g7. Returning to the position, we discovered that the king can't move up. After king h8, knight b5 attacks the queen. The bishop can't capture the knight because it unguards the pawn on g6, where my rook can create a checkmate sequence. After captures, queen h7 arrives, and if the queen blocks, queen takes h6 will lead to checkmate. So, b3 was played to attack the rook, sacrificing the knight. I am up in material, winning completely. The bishop is under attack and can't move back because queen d4 check will lead to checkmate on the next move. Sophia couldn't safeguard the bishop, and after a few moves, it was checkmate on g8. This was a beautiful game with Sophia. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. See you next time. Bye.